Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Tin Cannon String. Honor to the Sublime One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. So, you know what? I think I need to get a new headset. This Logitech headset has worked very, very well for a couple years, but it's definitely dying out. I think it's time to splurge on a new one. So, welcome to Tuesday night Dhamma Talk and Discussion. I see a few people I don't believe I've met before, so I'll give an introduction. My name is Jayantha, which is my Pali name. I was formerly known here as Ferox. I've been a member on staff at the Buddhist Center for about a year and a half. Actually, in December, it'll be 2 years in December. Yeah, wow, time flies. But I'm a 34-year-old lay Buddhist disciple of the Theravada tradition. A lay disciple is just a regular person, not a monk or a master or anything like that. So what we do here is we have a Dhamma talk and discussion. Normally, if a monk does a Dhamma talk, it's tradition to hold off your questions and comments to the end. But since I'm not a monk and I like to have a discussion, which this can definitely turn into a discussion sometimes, that's the best time when we get to discuss and comment. Feel free to comment, discuss at any time at all. Don't feel like you'd be interrupting me or anything like that. Always feel free to make a comment and a question. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about, it came to me a little bit in my morning walking meditation. I wanted to talk about responsibility and its role, or responsibility through a Buddhist perspective, I should say. I don't know about you, but it seems these days in our society that responsibility is something that is shirked, or that is not needed. Everybody is a victim. Everybody, everybody does bad stuff to us. There's no responsibility. And this is one of the reasons why that Buddhism strikes me into my core, is because we're not going to go political. Because Buddha talked about politics and such things being waste of time. Because then you don't want me to break out my libertarianness. So, what I wanted to talk about in terms of responsibility, there's a lot of different aspects of responsibility when it comes to Buddhism. One of the things that I like the most, in terms of directly from the suttas, and I'll read it, is from, and speaking about right livelihood from the suttas. I'll actually copy and paste it as well. Herein Vajrapaja, the householder knowing his income and expenses leads a balanced life, neither extravagant nor miserly, knowing that thus his income will stand in excess of his expenses, but not his expenses in excess of his income. Just as the goldsmith or an apprentice of his knows, on holding up a balance, that by so much it is dipped down, or by so much it is tilted up, even so a householder knowing his income and expenses leads a balanced life, neither extravagant nor miserly, knowing that thus his income will stand in excess of his expenses, but not his expenses in excess of his income. How many of us live like that today? It's very easy for us to go over that. Think, ooh, I like this newest iPhone. Ooh, the iPhone 5's out. My iPhone 4 is really crappy now. I should get the iPhone 5. In our society, we that's great. I know how that's like. But having the house in foreclosure and my wife going through the sickness and all that, and it took me a lot of years after she died to get out of debt and to get my credit back up and all that kind of stuff. But so congratulations, pal. That's very good. The reason I bring this up is it's not. I don't want to discuss a home economics or a budgeting course. We're not here to discuss such things, because we're here to talk about Dhamma. But something like this. This is the Buddha talks about the proper way of living for a lay disciple, for a lay person. Not only this, but also that lay people also have variety of responsibilities. They have a responsibility to their parents, and of course responsibility to children and stuff like that. And again, maybe it's just because of my job, I see so much shirking of responsibility, especially from parents, especially from fathers. That's why I believe there's a lot of trying to get fathers involved these days and stuff like that, which is a good thing. But you wonder where this lack of responsibility comes from. How are people trained these days? But you know what? It's not so much different than it was at the Buddha's time. And that's why the Buddha talked about living a good moral life in addition to the practice, because it goes hand in hand with the practice. Taking care of your responsibilities, whatever they are. Making sure that everything that you need to do is taken care of. But on an even grander scale, there's a responsibility in Buddhism in that everything that you do in terms of action, volitional action, there will be fruit from that in the future, as we're talking about karma or karma. When we talk about the 5 remembrances, those of you who've heard me talk, I talk about the 5 remembrances a lot. And the 5th remembrance, after old age, sickness, death, and that you'll be separated from everything that you hold dear, is that I am the owner of my karma. The karma is my arbitrator. Whatever I do, skillful or unskillful, to that I shall fall heir. So that's the Buddha's message in terms of responsibility, in that no matter what happens in life, you are responsible. Not only, because of what happened, maybe you are responsible from something. Maybe you did something bad in a past life, maybe you didn't. It doesn't matter. But you're responsible for how you live your life now. Whatever happens, you can create positive karma. You can create a more beneficial life for yourself, even if you don't believe in karma. You can create a more beneficial life for yourself here and now by following that responsibility of you are the owner of your actions. If you are able to observe your actions of body, speech, and mind, if you are able to, I don't want to say control, because that's not necessarily a good word when we're talking about, Buddhism, because we know that controlling, in a lot of ways, is not good, and it can be the opposite of what we're trying to do. But you're able, if you take responsibility for your actions, self-discipline, you are able to provide a better, more beneficial life for yourself and for others. That is the key. That's the Buddha talks about in the end, when he's about to die and he's talking to the disciples. He says his last words are, "Time is short. Work out your own liberation." Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can lead you to enlightenment. Nobody can hold you by the hand and help you cross the stream, as Buddha called it. And nobody can, just as that the same as that nobody can lead you to enlightenment, nobody can practice for you either. And that's another responsibility. The responsibility of practice. If you want to have a happier life, if you want to do good things, practice is important. That's why we talk about the practice of Dhamma, generosity, right? Practice of giving. Practice of giving not just items, but also your time, helping other people. That kind of stuff. But in addition to that is the practice of bhavana, of meditation. So when you practice, when you meditate, and you start to see things as they truly are, you start to see, and not even a karmic, cosmic kind of way, just a cause and effect way, you start to see how your actions affect you and the people around you. And you start to see that even just the littlest amount of an action that you don't see off the top of your head when you first do it, you don't see that how it affects somebody else, but it does. But the more you practice, the more you understand, the more you're able to observe your actions before you even do them. Your mind, mano pabanga, mano maya, mano satta, right? I always say that. It's the first line of the Dhammapada. Mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is its master. So, mind is where it all starts from. Mind is where the responsibility lies. The responsibility of not harming others, not doing something that's not beneficial to others. Now, living above your means is not beneficial to you, and it's not beneficial to others. Having debt is certainly not beneficial. Those of us who have debt, who have had it in the past, know what it can do to us. Now, sometimes we can't help but accrue debt for some reason or another. There's emergencies and stuff that happen in our life. But just with everything, there's always emergencies and there's always things that happen in our life. But we're always trying to remember and to think at that moment, okay, this has happened. What is the most beneficial thing for me to do in this situation at this moment? Remember, we're always thinking about the present. We're not worried about the past. We're not worried about the future, because we know that the future is created in the present. So we're always thinking about the present. Something happens. What is the most beneficial thing for me to do right now? If you have children, the most beneficial thing for you to do is obviously to support them and to spend time with them. And of course, we work a lot of hours these days. Some of us work multiple jobs, and it's hard to do that. But this is our responsibility. We've brought these beings into the world, and it's our responsibility to teach them well, to spend time with them so that they become well adapted beings that know also how to do beneficial things, and to help others and to help themselves. So, when you take on the practice, when you, in parentheses, become Buddhist, what you're really doing is you're admitting self-responsibility for your own actions and for your own life. And that is, to go back to a little bit of what Kristalina said before, that is a freedom that's unlike any other. When a lot of times in life we feel like we have no control over anything. Stuff just happens and we react to it. Bad stuff happens and we're sad or mad or angry. Good stuff happens and we're happy, and we're just flowing along on this current. But when you take responsibility for your actions and you begin the practice, then that is an ultimate freedom, because you are freeing yourself from all of that roller coaster, from being led around by your emotions, by the actions of whatever's happening, by the situation controlling you, bringing you around like you're a dog on a leash, to having responsibility, having control, for lack of a better word, of the situation, of what you know. You have the ultimate choice of what to do in any situation. That's power. That's a strong power, because we know that we can. And when you know this, when you practice, you see that you can really build a beneficial life for yourself. You really can. You create your own destiny. Exactly. And I've come to find that this is 100% true in my own life through my own experience. And I've come to develop in Western, we might call it faith, but in Buddhism, it's better termed confidence. We don't really talk about faith in Buddhism. It's mostly everybody says confidence because it makes a little bit more sense. In Buddhism, we're never talking about blind faith. We're always talking about confidence. Is you see it through your own experience and you know it's true, so you know that it'll be true in the future, or you know that it'll work in the future. So it's funny that I'm not 100% believer per se in karma and stuff like that, but it is weird though that I feel protected because of my actions. I feel that in the suttas and the monastics, when we talk about karma, you talk about how if you are creating a beneficial life for yourself right now, if you're doing positive, beneficial things, there's less chance for bad things that you did in the past to come back and bite you. And I almost feel I have a belief, a faith in that's 100% true. Exactly. Now, I can't say that I believed or had faith or had confidence in that 3 years ago, but I do now. And especially with metta, especially with when you have that Dhamma protects, exactly. And when we do the metta meditation, they talk about the 11 benefits of Buddha talks about the 11 benefits. Fire, poison, and sword cannot touch them. Their continence is serene. Exactly. Well, yeah, Pow, exactly. But I feel that. But you know what though? Even that doesn't mean that bad stuff won't happen in your life. The key when you're doing this is that you know bad stuff is going to happen. Of course it happens. It's part of life. But the difference, the key difference, is that your mind in reacting to that is different. A responsibility that we did not like in the past, that we shirked in the past, it's nothing now. It's something that needs to be done. Ajahn Brahm talks about, there's a great story that he talks about. It's the simile of the wheelbarrow. And the basically what happened was Ajahn Chah they were building a part of the monastery, so all the monks had to dig this huge pile, dig out wheelbarrows for like 3 days. They went and they dug out and they were doing wheelbarrows, and it was tough work. And then Ajahn Chah had to go out, so he left the monastery to go to another place for a couple of days. And one of the other monks, one of the head monks, said, "Kristalina, as always, good to see you, so thank you. Until next time." So one of the other monks said, "Oh no, it's supposed to be this way." So for another 3 days, they're digging, they're shoveling, they're wheelbarrowing back and forth and back and forth. So there's 6 straight days of tough work, and Ajahn Brahm's talking about how he's like, "Oh good, now I can take a shower and meditate and do this and doing that." And he says, then Ajahn Chah came back, and Ajahn Chah said, What's going on? What happened here? I told you to do it this way." So they said, "No, get all the dirt and put it over there." And the Ajahn Brahm talks about how at that point he kind of like snapped. He was like done. He's like, I worked hard for 6 days, blah blah blah. And he said that one of the senior monks told him that pulling or pushing the wheelbarrow is easy. Thinking about it is the hard part. The first time I heard that story from Ajahn Brahm, it clicked in my mind. So wow. And you know what? It kind of clicked in my mind because I grew up with my dad being a landscaper, and I've moved thousands upon thousands of wheelbarrows of stone and dirt and all kinds of so it brought me back to when I was younger, doing that, and the negativity that I had in my mind. Oh, it's hard work, blah 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 blah. And I thought to myself, wow, if only I had that mindset back then, where would I be now? But every time, if there's a responsibility in my life, like, oh, I don't want to type, I gotta type so much for work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and it's hard to get started to do these things that you're responsible for. And that always comes to my mind. Doing it is the easy part. Thinking about it is the hard part. And that helps me to put my mind in the right mindset so that I can fulfill my responsibilities and do what I need to do. But all of this, it becomes easier to do these things the more you practice, the less attachments you have, to things, the easier it is to do the right thing, to do what you need to do in terms of your responsibilities in life, and to not feel like you're trapped because of them. Because, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta take care of these kids, I gotta do that, I gotta take care of my parents because they're elderly, I gotta do this, there's all these kind of things that we don't want to do in life. But in Buddhism, in our practice, what we're trying to do is take responsibility for these things and for our actions, and doing these actions with a positive mindset that creates a beneficial experience for yourself and others. So, when we think of the term responsibility, we shouldn't think of it as like a teenager would think of it, like, I don't want to be responsible, I want to party and do this. We shouldn't think of responsibility in a negative term, in a negative mindset. We should think of it positively, that these are things in my life that bring me benefit, that bring me joy, that I need to do something for. And in just terms of responsibility, in terms of Dhamma, in terms of the practice, we know that we're responsible for our actions. Not even if you don't believe in a karma or anything like that, like I said, it doesn't matter. Because we can see that our actions create benefit or harm right here in this life. There's a sutta, and I believe it's in the Majjhima Nikaya, I think it's the Kalama Sutta actually, where somebody debates the Buddha on karma and rebirth and all this stuff. And the Buddha says, if there is no karma, no rebirth, and you follow the practice, even so you bring about a beneficial life for yourself and for others in this life, here and now. If there is karma, rebirth, or a heaven, or whatever else, what other cultures and religions believe, if that is so, then you're doubly rewarded because you lived a good life. So, in terms of the practice, in terms of Buddhists, or those who follow the Dhamma, those who follow the practice, our responsibility is to practice. Because I know through experience that all you need to do is to practice. You don't have to worry about, am I going to get insight, am I going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, 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 blah. If you practice, it will come. Just like that old movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you build the practice, they will come. The insights will come. A beneficial life, a better life will come. Ease of life will come. We don't feel so negative about things. This is our responsibility. Because we know that our actions of body, speech, and mind are totally within our control, even though, when I say practice, I mean meditation, but also not just meditation, the whole practice basically, practicing dana, morality, meditation, all of that. Sila, samadhi, panya. Sila is morality. Samadhi is meditation or concentration. Panya is the wisdom you gain from these two. So when I do say practice, I don't necessarily just mean meditation. But that's a big part of it. That should always be understood. Let me just question your question. You mean taking action? Taking action in what way? Well, that's very skillful. Let's see if we can do that. It's best that you understand instead of just listen to me yabber on for a half hour and not understand. So that's good. In in the Buddhist terminology, yes, yeah, yeah, taking small steps. So small steps of meditation, of generosity, volunteering, donating, and of course meditation. Now we don't start out. Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, it's all related in terms of the self. So apply to the self in what way? What would you say? Having more confidence in yourself. Well, I think a monastic would say the more you realize that there is no self, the more confidence you gain. That's so, because if there's no self, there's nothing to feel a lack of confidence about. I know what people feel when they think about there's confidence. You feel, regarding your physical nature. Oh, I'm not good looking, I'm not this, I'm not that. So, there's that kind of stuff where I'm shy, or I'm not able to talk to people. There's a lot of reasons that. Well, I will say one thing. Regardless of terminology of self, non-self, and all of that kind of stuff in terms of in Buddhism, what that what we just discussed here, um, the looks and the feeling, the shyness and all of that, positive thought goes 100% in changing that and making it better. I'll bring you back to what I would consider my first real change in life. Through high school and middle school, I always considered myself to be an introvert, to be shy. I was never really good at talking with people. I could talk to adults and stuff like that. I always felt more comfortable talking to adults than peers. And so we're talking about my first year in college. I said to myself, you know what? That's not me. And if it is me, it's not who I want to be. So I want to change that. I want to become an outgoing person with confidence. And I did a couple different things. I had heard, now this is well before knowledge and practice on my part of Buddhism and stuff like that. I mean, I had known a little bit through about the Dalai Lama, etc., but this is well before my Buddhist practice. But I had heard about somebody talking about smiling, learning how to smile, and the term fake it until you make it came up, where if you practice, if you smile on purpose, you just keep smiling, you keep smiling, you keep smiling, eventually it will become a natural smile. And people react different to you when you're smiling. 100% they react different. So what I would do was I'd always make sure I'm smiling. Always make sure I was smiling. This is me being about 18, 19 years old. I'm 34, so quite a while ago. And the other thing I did, I smiled in the mirror. I don't know if any of you are around my age. There was I used to watch this Saturday Night Live. I don't know if anybody knows Saturday Night Live, but there's this guy, I think it was Stuart Smalley, and he would be in the mirror and he goes, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." I love it. But you know what? I didn't quite do that, but that's basically the tack that I took. I looked at myself in the mirror a lot. I looked at myself smiling in the mirror. And I began to take risks. I began to talk to people. And I noticed that it was easier to talk to people. It was easier to talk to women. It was easier to talk to just anybody. And it took time, but I went from an introvert to an extrovert. I was, I don't want to say popular in college, but I was well known by people, and me and my roommates, we had parties, and we had, I was an outgoing kind of person. There was still depressions in there, and there were still different things like that, but compared to how I was as a junior, senior in high school, with lots of negativity, lots of aversion, lots of downing on myself, not feeling I was worth it, it was almost 100% different change. And I would say even then, even now compared to then, it's 100% different change. Or else I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to everybody off the top of my head. So I'm reading a book right now, which I highly suggest. If you can read it, I highly suggest it, because it will help you in terms of changing. Because your lack of confidence, the feeling, that's actually habitual. That's actually something that can be changed. And the book is called The Power of Habits. It's an amazing, amazing book. And I'll link it for you. But it talks about the habits that we create, why we do what we do. And I think that will be helpful in terms of helping you to change that mindset. There we go. Yeah, so do I. That's why I've loved to, one of the things in this book they talk about, there's a habit, there's a cue, there's a routine, and there's a reward. Every habit we do, there's something that cues it. There's something that starts the habit. The routine is the action that we always do to get the reward, right? So I bite my nails, not as much as I used to, but I still do. So I decided to over this weekend, I decided to come up with changing the routine to try to get the same reward. So every time I had the feeling to go to bite my nails, instead I put my palms together and I rubbed, like Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, if you ever seen that movie when he's rubbing his hands. So every time I had the thought to do that, I changed the cue. Now, obviously, a habit is something that you have to build up over time, but it's interesting. It's very, very, you see that when you practice too. When you delve into your own mind, when you're practicing meditation, you see how these things form, how they arise, and how they go away. Well, one of the things that is helpful in terms of when you have depression and stuff like that is a good therapist. If you can see a therapist, can be very helpful. And I mean good as in somebody who's useful. There's plenty of therapists that you would not think of useful, but then you find one and it all works. I credit the therapist that I see with a lot of helping me change, even more so than meditation. But I credit a lot of the change that he helped me to make towards actually becoming better at my practice and having the mindset to be able to do it. So if you can see a therapist, I highly suggest it. Depression is an interesting thing because there's a lot of different levels of depression. At one point, I was diagnosed with systemic depression. I don't think I ever had it, and my therapist now said that he thinks that the old therapist was a bunch of BS, that I never had it. But I do remember a lot of depression as a teenager. I had acne and stuff, and to a little bit degree, I still actually do have acne. I had acne, and that always makes somebody feel like they're inferior in terms of being able to be out and socialize and all that stuff. And so I do know what depression can be like. But it's funny how these days it doesn't really exist for me. There's a difference between, there's depression, so there's stuff like seasonal depression, there's stuff like feeling depression, but there's also if there's ever somebody who has, I do child protective services, so I deal with people who have mental health issues, and I deal with people who have drug issues. And there's people who have serious mental health issues that talking about a therapist and smiling and doing meditation, it's probably not going to help them that much, because it's very serious mental health issues like bipolar, like major depression, that stuff, or like schizophrenia, that you need more than that. But if you're just talking about a depression, about how you're feeling in life and stuff like that, and your mindset and negativity, that is something that can definitely be worked on through meditation and through seeing a therapist, without a doubt. The more hardcore stuff, you're talking about meditation, medications, and all kinds of stuff like that. I was actually on the depression medication for a little bit. It never really did much for me, but so Yes, I understand where you're coming from, and I wish you good luck with that. But I highly suggest, if you don't smile all the time yet, do it. I don't. I have a little bit of a self-conscious thing for me in terms of my smiling, is because I almost feel like when I smile, it looks weird. Like I feel like I look like the Joker from Batman when I smile, because like the way my I don't know, I have to like really move the muscles to smile to make it look like a smile. So I always kind of have like people always like, why aren't you smiling? Why aren't you doing this? I am smiling. What do I gotta? So, or like when meditation, people look at me when I'm meditation. My normal lip, how it is with no emotion to it, it actually goes down a little bit, so it looks like a little bit of a frown. So I'll just be walking or just whatever, just a clear mind, no negativity or elation or anything in my mind, no real emotions. But people is like, "Oh, are you okay?" Or they'll think that I'm angry or something like that, just from the facial expression, a neutral facial expression. So it's interesting. But if you're always smiling, people are like, "Oh, there's something going on with that person. They're all happy and all kinds of stuff." Either that or they belong in the loony bin. But most of the time, people will say, "Oh, wow, they're happy. What's going on? That's different." So and people want it. People are attracted to. People want to talk to happy people. Nobody wants to talk to the person who's always negative, bitching about this and that, and this job is this, and this person is this, and this person did that to me, this person did that to me. I can't get away. I can't get anywhere in life. I have a close friend who I love her to death. I've known her since college. We're talking 12 years. But when I see her post on Facebook, I just want to turn Facebook off, because it's always like, "Oh, life is this to me, and life is that to me, and blah blah blah," and it's just like, even me as somebody who's a practitioner of meditation and shouldn't get agitated or affected by something like that. It affects me too. It's like, why would I want to deal with somebody like that? Who wants to deal with negativity? But you can't you can't force somebody to change. You can't. Did my voice just die out? Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. It just went a little weird there for a second. But you cannot force somebody to change. So the best thing you can do is just to accept that. Accept them for who they are. Everything is in small steps. The Buddha talked about his training is a gradual training. Did I drop out again? Hello? 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 Right? Oh.